If you've looked at the price of a Walt Disney World vacation lately and thought, how in the world do families afford this? You're not alone. Some outlets are reporting that the average Disney vacation can cost upwards of $6,000 and even as much as $15,000 if you're staying at a deluxe resort. And as a Disney dad and a travel agent, I can tell you that's not the full story. I sat down with New York Times bestselling author and financial expert Rachel Cruze to talk about how her family actually plans Walt Disney World vacations. We talked about how Rachel plans vacations without the stress, without the guilt, and most important for her audience, without the debt. This conversation is packed with advice that every family planning a Disney vacation really needs to hear. From real life budgeting tips, parenting moments in the parks, to how her and her husband navigate spending disagreements, we covered it all. If you want to plan smarter and make your next Walt Disney World vacation more magical and more affordable, let's get into it. So just like to get us started, what are some of your tips and thoughts for parents with young kids that are really digging into this kind of a vacation for the first time?
I can just tell you, from being somebody, I enjoy it. Like I enjoy the magic. I enjoy the rides, the experience. I mean, all of it is up my alley. My husband, give or take, he's like, it's whatever for him. So I do know with families, when I talk with families, specifically when we talk Disney, there's sometimes one spouse that's kind of the all-in spouse, and then there's one that's like, I don't know, we could take that same money and rent a house on the beach, right? They always give the other alternative. But I do think, there is a level of Disney that has this like nostalgia, right, to all of us. I think it's such a great trip. But I do think as well for parents, especially in today's world, just because of, I deal with callers and I talk to people every day, and it's just tough out there. I mean, people are feeling, whether it's the rise of credit card debt, inflation, the housing market, like just the economy in and of itself is really tough. And so I do want to just release some pressure to families that like, you can survive and not go to Disney World, right? Like don't go into debt for it. Like there's wise ways to do this. And if your kids never end up going, they're okay. They're going to be in therapy just like the kids that went to Disney. Like everyone's going to have their stuff, right? So just release that. But if that is on your bucket list or that is a trip that you're like, no, we do want to take this as a family, then that's where you're like, okay, let's be intentional and plan for it and do it wisely and what's going to make sense for us. And what I like about it, or from what I've experienced, is kind of what you mentioned earlier, but you can have all different tiers of a Disney trip. I mean, you can go full on and stay at a suite in the Grand Floridian and do a VIP service and like fly, you know what I mean? Like you can go as big or as budget friendly, but you got to get the tickets and go into the parks. And so it does cost, right? I mean, there is a level of cost, but I think you can fluctuate what that looks like for your family. And even if it's just a day, we did that one time. The first time we went was just for one day at Magic Kingdom with our little girl. And it was great. And we didn't stay on property. I mean, we didn't do the full Disney, but she at least got a taste of it. And that was like a good kind of like, toe dipped in the water type thing. So I think there's all different levels of doing it. I think you just have to pick and be mature with your numbers and know, like, I don't want to get carried away. But also we want to enjoy our money. And if we have the ability to do it, let's do it.
There was really an interesting study that came out from NerdWallet last week where they said the average cost of a Walt Disney World vacation, and the example they gave was a family of 4, 7 nights, tickets, and 3 meals a day. And I just want to get what your reaction is to these numbers, because we as a travel agent, I deal with this every single day. So I have an idea what they are, but these numbers were, I'll save my reaction. So $6,463 for a value resort for a family of 4 for 7 nights and tickets, $8,912 for a moderate resort, and $15,559 for a deluxe resort, the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, that kind of thing. Rachel, does that, I mean, knowing that you're dealing with people that are in this economy every day, does that surprise you?
I mean, it's high for sure. I mean, I do think vacations in general post-COVID have all gone up, honestly, though. When you look at airline prices, hotel prices, anywhere you go, it's more expensive to travel. So honestly, the first number you threw out, I was like, okay, family of 4 for a week, like we can just, and then of course it kind of starts going up and up and up. So I just, I kind of just know the averages where, the average American is. And for vacation, you're going to pay more. And again, regardless of Disney or not, there's, you can do Airbnbs versus hotels. Like you can drive instead of fly. Like there's definitely cook at home versus going out to eat every meal. Like there is ways around to make a trip great and still be on a budget. But in today's world, just like everything else, it's just more expensive. So
It
in one way,
hurts.
it doesn't shock me. But as you talked about the 15,000, I was like, well, it's a heck of a trip.
Yeah, it is. And you know what I found interesting, and I think it also goes to the perception that the media portrays for some of these trips, especially when it comes to Disney, is like,
Well, what did y'all think about that? Is that fair numbers? Like you live in this world.
I thought it was ridiculous, and I went and pulled
Okay.
numbers just to give an example, because this is what I often see is like families will go and they'll book a trip, 6 months to a year in advance, and they book it and they just think they're going to bite the bullet, and they don't know that Disney comes out with promotions later and that it can lower the price and things like that. So I went and looked, and I picked an absolutely random week, November 3rd to 10th of this year, a value resort for a family of 4 with 7 nights and tickets every day. This doesn't include food, which is probably going to be $1,500 to $2,000. But a value resort was $4,036.80, so $2,400 cheaper. A moderate resort was $4,972.52, so that's almost $4,000 cheaper, $3,000 cheaper. But the big one was that deluxe. So the Grand Floridian specifically, $8,790.48. So
Well, that's
like half
much
the price.
different than 15, right?
Exactly. So sometimes I kind of am looking like, yeah, if you look at spring break and you book at the last minute and you do all the things that people tell you not to do when
Yep.
budgeting for Disney, it's going to be really expensive and it's going to be painful and it hurts. But there are so many ways to save on a big vacation like this that I think the way it's portrayed in the media can sometimes be a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
And I think the
Shocking.
numbers
The media
bear that out a little
exaggerates.
bit. Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point though, because anything in life, but I think vacations is an easy one to give an example for. It's just being intentional. It's researching, it's comparing prices, it's not taking things at face value. And I think that's what happens a lot with people is they just are like, well, this is what the website says, so this is it, right? And so when you actually, research, if you're, flexible on dates, especially, and things like that, you do get a better deal if you just go in saying, hey, I'm going to take the extra energy and look around, talk to people, and actually put some effort in. It's going to save you money.
Right. And one of the things that you touched on a little bit ago, I think is really important. And it's kind of how this can impact your marriage when you've got 2 spouses. And, one person is usually never on board. And you frequently host money and marriage events with Dr. John Deloney. And we all know that big purchases, whether it's a vacation or not, can have a huge impact. But what advice do you have for couples and young parents that are navigating this idea of going to Disney for the first time, not just as parents, but in their marriage?
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to money and marriage, it's a slippery slope where people, can create a lot of tension and a lot of conflict. And so what I've realized is it's usually just never about the money, or it's usually never just about the trip. It's the thing underneath, right? So, I'll use me and Winston for an example. He may listen to this later and be like, babe. But I'm like, for me, it's less about, I guess, quote unquote Disney, but it's an experience. I would pay for an experience all day. For my kids, to see the things that I saw when I was little, to be on rides with them, to be part of the character. I mean, the whole thing for me is what the magic is. It's not to say, oh, I went to Disney, right? So for me, that's my motivation underneath me wanting to go. Where Winston's motivation is more like, well, I want time with my family. And if we're standing in lines all day, it's not efficient. If we could take this and, I don't know, bring other people on a trip and have a house and we could do something more, communal, and our kids have friends. He can paint a whole other picture because of his why and how he's wired. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think take the issue off the table. And I deal with this with people that, with budgeting, one spouse really loves to budget and the other doesn't. So, but the spouse that loves to budget probably loves a level of control and security because there's probably a level of fear there, where the free spirit just doesn't have that. And that's not how they're motivated. So it's really getting underneath the surface and understanding the why. And I would hope that somewhat in a healthy relationship, you can have that conversation, and there is going to be a give and take in marriage. And there is going to be okay, Winston, Rachel, can we just go every other year? Instead of 3 times a year, if it was for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'd go all the time. And there's a give and take in that. And I think there's a mutual respect as a couple that you kind of both see each other's sides and understands. and come to that agreement. But I think getting underneath the surface of the issue is always important. And money's funny because everyone just thinks they're fighting about money or they're fighting about the trip or whatever the thing is. But really, it's the thing underneath that it's hitting my heart, being like, no, but you don't want to experience like the wonder and the magic of it. Like, that's what I want, where he's like, but I want this. So, but it is funny because there's usually one spouse, or from my experience, that's more gung-ho than
one of the other things that I think every parent deals with when it comes to Disney is this issue of contentment. And the prime example that always sticks out in my mind is you're kind of towards the end of the day, your spouse is hungry, you're tired, you're hot, you've been standing in lines all day, your kids are like right on the fringe of having that breakdown, and you come out of a ride and they see like the bubble wand cart, or they see the toys and whatever. And from a parenting the perspective, there's two questions related to this. Number one is like, on these kind of vacations, are you looking for parenting opportunities to really teach your kids, or are you more focused on let's just have fun? And the second part of that is, what advice would you give to parents that are kind of navigating those situations for the first time as a mom that's been through it, that knows how to teach somebody about contentment and things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I would say on one of our trips that we did, we bought a bunch of stuff before and brought it. So like our Mickey ears and like that kind of thing. And I was really good about it. I was on it for that trip. I think because we were there a little bit longer, it was our whole family. And I was like, okay. And I really planned it out well. And so when it got to those things, yeah, I mean, we kind of just passed them up. And I did. I was like, guys, you don't need it. It's going to break probably by the time we get to the hotel. And let's move on. Let's go do something else. And you can kind of like move them along, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went with Christy Wright, my friend, who was on your podcast. And her daughter was like, I want that frozen lemonade. Christy was like, sure. Yeah. Uh-huh. You want that? Christy had the bubble. I mean, Christy did say a
little bit of a yes day.
She was a yes day. And I thought, and I talked to her, I mean, we were laughing because she's like, Rachel, just buy your kids the frozen lemonade. It's okay. And I'm like, but out of principle, I don't want to, So I had this like internal battle. And what I realized, and again, I don't want to speak out of privilege or this come off wrong by any means, but I did think, okay, an extra $100 for today, $100 would get, a couple of desserts, some frozen lemonades, a stuffed animal, a reasonable stuffed animal, a bubble wand if they like. It will do a couple of things, right, throughout that day or those 2 days. So I'm like, okay, for me, there is a discernment of we can do that, right? And we're going to be okay. And the kids are going to have fun. It's going to be a memory. And does the memory offset the lesson that has to be learned? And so I think as a parent, you have to discern it. Number one, if you don't have the money for it, if you didn't budget for it, then it's just a no. And that's an easy no of like, no, we're going to move on and all that. But if you're able to financially to give them these like, little treats, I think it's appropriate in certain times. I really do, because I do think it may add to the experience. And there is a point that you're like, okay, we're going to have these memories in it, and we're going to do that because our whole lives, because what the parenting moment doesn't need to be at Disney in the middle of the park. The parenting moment is on a Tuesday afternoon at home, right? So we've set a baseline for our family and how we operate. And if there's a fun little spike, right, at Disney, and mom says yes 3 times in a row and they can't believe it because she never does that at home, and we're always usually saying no to gifts and stuff randomly at Target or whatever, right? It makes the memory more fun, if that makes sense. So absolutely, again, as a parent, you have to discern that for your family financially and emotionally. But I've been on both trips. I was the no mom and I was the yes mom. Of course, the yes mom was way more fun, that you get to say yes to all the treats. So I would say if you do go, budget a little bit extra, just not that you buy everything in sight, but to maybe pick out a treat, once or twice a day. I think it does add to the fun of it, but it will add up financially, so be prepared. But there is something priceless about having memories with your family. And again, you can do that at Disney, not at Disney, but it adds to the experience. And I think with anything, realizing that it's not going to change who you are, right? And I think about this, whether it's a purchase of a house, right? A big purchase, or a nice vacation. Like, I think we can believe as humans, oh my gosh, if I just had that, something's going to change within me and I'm going to be better somehow, right? And the only thing you leave with is memories, which I think is priceless. And I really do believe in investing in that with your family and all of that. But yeah, you're still you at Disney, and even magnified, the good and the bad, probably.
Magnified is the best way to describe it, because everybody is on the polar edge of whatever it is that they are. Everybody's
We're so
there. That's for
excited,
sure.
or we're so miserable.
Yes, and you probably feel all the feelings. Like there's no question there. So, like, Rachel, as a mom, you guys are planning a trip here in October. When you think about Disney specifically, what are the things that are most important to you? Like when you're sitting down with your budget and you're like, hey, I'm taking the kids. Our 5-year-old's never been. Are you looking at the resort first? Are you looking at the pool, the location? What are your priorities as a mom?
Yeah, so for me, I'm an efficient person naturally, so I want to be as efficient as possible when we're there. And we're probably we have not gone for a full week, so the max we're going is 4 nights. So I'm like, okay, if we can, if we're going to be there that day and we can check in at 3, we might as well fly in early and get a day in, so like I'm looking at timeline a lot. I would love to stay at a resort that you can have the magic hours, because I did that with Christy, and when we went 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and that was great. Like I felt a difference in the park when we were able to like go through lines quicker. So those were the two. Efficiency is like my number one. I'm like, how can we be the most efficient in the short amount of time that we're going to be there? So yeah, we don't do pool days or anything like that. I think because we don't stay long enough, maybe.
I love it. I love it.
So for me, we are all in. And I know for our little one, he's 5. So I think Magic Kingdom will be a first good step. So I think we're going to do that the first day. My girls love Animal Kingdom. For some reason, I'm like, I mean, it's fine. I just didn't realize they like loved it that much. So they really want to do that. So yeah, so I'm looking at efficiencies and magic hours and when we get there and all of that. So that's my number one goal. Do as much as possible.
Recommendations for mentally getting through saving for such a long period of time. And I feel like we hear this one a lot because people book Disney vacations. What do you tell people when they're kind of going? I mean, it's the same thing as getting debt free, right?
Yeah, well, especially trips. I think one of I guess it could be a disadvantage, but I'd say an advantage is a lot of the cost is split up, right? So you need to purchase your airline tickets, so or if you're going to fly, but like that's going to be an upfront cost. But really with the hotels and stuff, I think it's just you just put down like a couple $100, right?
Yeah,
yep,
$200
to hold it. Tickets, I know, I mean, I bought them recently and I think we're 2 months out, but I did that on a separate month. Like we kind of spaced out the expenses, if that makes sense, to help with that. So it doesn't all just hit, you don't have to have all $6,000 immediately. So I think that kind of is a snowball method in and of itself of how you're planning. So
Definitely.
Just knowing those time periods to be like, okay, we got to save up for this. Let's get that done. Okay. And then next is this and this. And some of those are flexible, right? When you buy tickets and everything. And so again, at your pace, it kind of allows some of that time. So it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, we have to have this whole mountain done, if you will, right now. It's in bite-sized pieces, which kind of helps the momentum go. But it is, I mean, it's about budgeting. It's putting money aside. It's a money goal is really what it is. I mean, saving up for a new car, down payment on a home, vacation, all of that. So there's going to be some give and take throughout your life, realizing, okay, what are we going to say no to, yes to? But the fun is that you're saying yes to something great, right? And that's what you're planning for. So hopefully that's helpful. But putting it in the budget, I think, is really key.
We see, like, I have clients all the time that pay like $200 every 2 weeks, right? So they get their paycheck and they just have me pay $200 to their vacation every 2 weeks, and it's just on repeat and they don't even think about it.
Yeah, sustaining your life in general, I think, is really important. And I think that's the big thing about, the Ramsey plan is getting out of debt, getting an emergency fund. All of these things is to create a level of peace in your life. And when you don't have those things, when you owe a bunch of money, when you have no savings, that creates more stress and anxiety. And so whatever that peace looks like for you, it's going to look different for everyone. That's the goal of all of this, is just to breathe, right? For some people, they're like, I want to hit millionaire status at this age, or I want to do this or that. And I guess you can have those kind of goals, but I think the ultimate is creating a life that has peace in it. And so if you're planning a big trip, you don't want to live for a year all stressed and, wound up. So enjoy your life through the process too. Cause you don't want to miss out on life just for, 5 days at Disney. So just breathe and enjoy. Yeah.
Has there been any extras that you've purchased while you're at Disney that you felt were absolutely worth it and you were kind of excited about at the time?
Honestly, for me, and I may get booed on your podcast, I don't know, the character dinners, for what you pay, when I'm looking at the price, I'm like, The only one for me that is like fully worth it and that we're gonna do in October, it's like the one that I'm like, we will do this, is the royal table at Cinderella, because you get to meet all the princesses. You kind of get to knock efficiency. See, you get to knock all that off, talking to all the princesses without standing in line. You get it at lunch or dinner, and it's done, and it's great. And so for me, that was the one character dinner that I was like, that was fully worth it. We did Beauty. We've done the Beauty and the Beast one twice. We did it with
That one's a little
Christy
bit of a
and her kids.
bummer.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit, yeah, where I'm like, man, I don't know what you pay. Is it worth it? Because for me, getting a corn dog, fries, and my frozen lemonade that I talked about earlier, like, or a beer, whatever it is, a glass of champagne
Yeah.
and some tater tots, I'm great with. So for me, the food, I can kind of skip the experiences with that and kind of get that more on the rides. But I will say the royal table for me, it was a for sure worth it. I loved it.
I just had a guest that I was talking to about that yesterday. Like the Cinderella's royal table is like the Disney experience, right? Eating inside of the castle is something
So
that
fun. Yes,
you,
so
you
great.
don't get to do very often. And
Yeah,
I
stuffed
think
animals, I will say, I'm done. That's one that I'll probably be a no mom in the fall because I bought them with Christy because Christy's like, oh my God, get them, And I was like, okay. And they already have they have stuffed animals from like, I don't know, life. And
Yeah.
after a while, I'm like, y'all, you never play. Like, this is not, no. So, no, I'm going to say no to those.
that's our bubble wands. We've got a whole chest full of bubble wands.
Oh, do
that
you? Yes.
It's
Oh my
like
God.
it's like a bubble wand cemetery.
Well,
in
and
my
I made my
garage.
girls because we got because on the Christie trip, I'm learning from my mistake. I didn't pre-buy everything like I did the first big trip. So there we are buying everything at the park, and it is more expensive. So I did tell my girls, hold on to those because we will reuse those in October. So I will not be buying those.
What are some of your favorite ways to save money when traveling?
Oh, that's good. I think food is a big one. I think you can just go overboard with the food. And just like we're talking about, I mean, genuinely getting a corn dog at Casey's Corner versus a character meal, that's a significant savings right there. So the food I can kind of like cut out. I would say, yeah, I think I learned about the merch, idea. I think I want to be a fun mom. I think there's a balance there, but I do think we can be efficient in saving with what we've bought to reuse, which we're going to in October.
I hope this conversation gave you some clarity and confidence as you plan your next Walt Disney World vacation. Whether you're saving every penny or just trying to avoid overspending, Rachel's strategy proves you can do Disney smarter. If you want help finding real numbers for your Walt Disney World vacation, not those $15,000 headlines, I'd love to help. I'm a travel agent who specializes in Disney and Universal vacations, and my services are completely free to you. Just hit that link in the description for a free quote, and we'll plan a vacation that is perfect for you and your family and your budget. We'll see you in the parks.